In this film, expert Mazharat Khan offers clarity and insight on the difference between learning disabilities and specific learning disorders. With a focus on early identification, she highlights key warning signs, the importance of timely intervention, and the risks of missing the window for support. Drawing on her vast experience, she outlines effective strategies and emphasizes the crucial role parents and educators play in transforming lives of students and persons living with specific learning disorders. What is the difference between specific learning disabilities and specific learning disorders?
Earlier, the term used was learning disability for, what is now called specific learning disability. So, under learning disability, we had dyslexia, dysgraphia and dyscalculia. However, over a period of time, learning disability term was also used for those with low intelligence struggling with learning, and those maybe with brain damage or some other medical factors who were struggling with learning. So it became general terminology. So everybody who struggled with learning was was said to have a learning disability. Specific learning disability term came in to specify that there is no medical factor involved, there is no brain injury involved, there are no other factors, physical factors that are coming in the way of learning. So it's purely neurologically based, and it's a problem with the functioning of the brain, and it affects reading, spelling, writing or mathematics. So if it affects reading, then it is dyslexia, okay, writing dysgraphia, maths dyscalculia, okay. Then in 2013, you had DSM-5 coming in, 5th edition, that is Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and in that the term used was specific learning disorder. So got away with disability. They said it's not a disability, it's a disorder, it's a condition. And they also got away with the terms dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. So in DSM-5, it talks about impairment in reading. Okay, so specific learning disorder with impairment in reading, specific learning disorder with impairment in written expression, and specific learning disorder with impairment in mathematical calculation, okay, which is actually, defining dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. Now the thing is, earlier dysgraphia, and even today, especially where, government hospitals are concerned, and even where RPWD Act is concerned, dysgraphia refers to both written expression as well as handwriting difficulties. So if you have illegible handwriting, that also, is diagnosed as dysgraphia. But as per DSM-5, it's only written expression now, which comes under specific learning disorder. So the motor coordination part of it is now a separate category called developmental coordination disorder. So your handwriting motor issues come under that. So if you get students who are struggling with handwriting issues, illegible handwriting, due to which they are not able to do well in their exams because teachers cannot read their paper, they get a diagnosis of developmental coordination disorder, and they get, so irrespective of whether you call it dysgraphia or developmental coordination disorder, they get extra time, they get a scribe, depending on the board, they get a laptop or a computer to work on.
At what age can dyslexia be identified, and what are its key characteristics?
As early as 4 years of age, you would know whether or not a child is at risk for dyslexia. And so the identification can happen as early as that, and you can start immediately with intervention. All right, you don't need to wait for a formal diagnosis or a label to provide any kind of intervention or support or accommodations. The early signs would be for anybody, what we would call as warning signs, that there is a possibility of the child struggling later on with academics, would be like something would be like missing a milestone also, like crawling, okay, or late speech, all right, and then getting distracted easily, not being able to focus, not interested in books, or interested only in pictures in the books and not, the print in the book. Cannot sit for a long time listening to somebody, narrating a story. Okay, would be interested in stories but not, long stories. Or reading a book, if a parent sits with the book to read, they are not interested in that. They would say, okay, you read the book, you tell me the story. Also, you will find them struggling with recitation of the alphabet. When you introduce the alphabet, they just don't get the sequence. So sequencing is a major issue. Anything that involves sequencing is a problem. So you will see them struggling with the 1, 2, 3, 4s also. Later on, you will find that they are able to recite up to 9, and then you have to provide 10, they will go on. Then they will be stuck at 19, you have to provide 20, they'll go on, and so forth. So you will see this, anything that requires sequencing is a problem. As you move into the higher classes, they will have problems with, definitions, with formulas, with equations, anything that requires memorization. So rote memorization is another issue. They will be happy to explain and give examples, but the minute you insist that they have to rote memorize something and reproduce it as it is verbatim, you will start seeing the struggle over there. So you will see these characteristics as they move ahead in the higher classes too. So phonological awareness is another area. Because when you talk about dyslexia, it is a deficit in the phonological component of language. So they are not able to differentiate between the sounds. They don't get the sounds of the letters, and so you will see the struggle over there. And they will not be able to, you will see that they struggle with giving rhyming words. They will struggle with being able to differentiate between, the beginning sounds of the words, or the vowel sounds of the words, or the ending sound of the words. So for example, like, if you say bat and bad, for them bat and bad both would be same. Okay, if you say, cut and gut, for them cut and gut both would be the same, because the beginning sound k and g sound the same to them, right? So you will see problem with the phonological processing. And because of this, in the higher classes, reading is affected, spelling is affected, because everything is to do with sound symbol. So they are not able to make the connections between the sound symbol.
Why is early intervention crucial?
Early, identification will lead to early intervention. So early identification becomes very important. Only then we'll have early intervention. And why early intervention? Because the brain is still in the developing process, right? Till the age of 4, maximum development of the brain takes place. It's not that after 4, brain development does not take place. We all know about neuroplasticity, brain plasticity. Brain can keep, developing, growing as long as we are alive. But those are the crucial years. So if you identify before the age of 4 and give the intervention, you will see maximum progress, and you will see, less of struggle in the children.
What challenges may arise if early intervention is missed?
So if you miss out on those early stages of intervention, you will see the children, struggling with reading, with spelling. They are not able to keep pace with what is happening in the class. They are, they are lagging behind, leading to low self-esteem, low self-confidence. They develop, psychological, emotional, conditions. They are, what you will see is, withdrawal in some children. Some children will always be quiet. They will be like recluse. They don't socialize. And in some you will see the other way around, very talkative, distracted, disturbed. They come across as, deliberately doing things to distract and disturb the others in the class. You will find them indulging in attention seeking behavior, or they will be there as class clowns, always up to some antic or the other, making everybody laugh. Some of them are the favorites of their peers because they love to be in the company, and some of them can resort to antisocial behavior. So you would see that resulting in delinquency, avoiding, resulting in fights, verbal abuse, anger issues, which are arising from frustration at not being able to perform. So just one, one difficulty or disorder can affect a child's overall personality, depending on the environment, depending on the support, depending on the understanding the child receives. So we have seen that when you identify early and give them the right kind of help and support, children get that sense of there are people who understand me, who are there to help and support me. So a lot of these psychological, emotional factors are taken care of. Otherwise, they carry the emotional baggage with them throughout life. So we have so many adults who talk about them still struggling with their emotions, how badly they have been psychologically damaged, the trauma they have gone through, the hatred towards school, their teachers. They just don't want to listen to the name school or teachers. So this is what they carry with them throughout life, and we would not want this happening.
What role do parents play in the early intervention process?
That with parents, what we cannot actually say that parents should know about it. How would the parents know, right, when teachers themselves don't know? So though we are creating awareness, a lot is being done, still there is a lot to be done in terms of awareness amongst the teachers. Now parents will only come to know about it once the teachers report to them. No parent is going to think about dyslexia or a specific learning disorder or disability and look out for those signs. How would they do that? They would not know that unless somebody points it out to them. But once they come to know about it, once the teachers or somebody who knows about dyslexia or SLD talks to them about it, then parents need to take that seriously. What we see is that there is a lot of denial. They don't want to accept. They are like, there's nothing wrong with my child, and we cannot blame them, because actually there is nothing wrong with the child, right? The child is just their child is just like any other child. The child does not have a physical disability, does not have any is not lacking in intelligence because the child is verbose or is active or has certain talents in certain fields. The only area the child is struggling is with academics. So the parents and even the teachers, it's very easy for them to say that the child is not interested, the child is more interested in extracurricular activities or in sports or in drama. They find various reasons for the child's academic non-performance. And if the parents, who have been, warned or who have been advised that there could be a possibility of SLD, because of which your child is not performing and not because your child is involved in other activities, it would be of a great service to their own child, because parents don't realize that by denying that their child could have a some kind of a disorder, they are delaying the intervention process. And the more you delay the intervention process, we talk in terms of multiplication. So the problems multiply. It's like with every passing year there is a multiplication happening. And then when you finally accept that your child has a disorder that needs to be attended to, I would not say it is too late, because it is never too late, but the whole process of remediating becomes very strenuous for everybody. There is a lot of unlearning that has to take place, because whatever the child has learned or the methodology through which the child has learned was not right for the child. That is why the child has continued struggling. So now the child has to first go through the process of unlearning everything. Then you have to start relearning. You have to start at the base. So the number of years that would be involved in remediation would, be threefold, fourfold. Whereas with early intervention, you will start seeing results. Even we have seen results within 1 month also, if the parents are focused and involved in the remediation process.
What interventions are most effective in supporting children with specific learning disorders?
The best intervention, research-based intervention, is through the Orton-Gillingham methodology. So there are various programs, and now you can just surf on the net and you will come to know. So this methodology talks about multisensory, and it talks about being highly structured. So whether you have a child coming to you at the age of 4, or you have an adult coming to you at the age of 23 or 40 or 60, it does not matter. The point of beginning the remediation is the same. So the program remains the same. The pace at which you move will change depending on the age and depending on the severity of the difficulty. Main focus is on phonological awareness skills. So by definition, as I mentioned earlier, dyslexia is due to deficit in the phonological component of language, and so we have to develop the phonological skills. It is due to the deficit that they are not able to get the sounds and they are not able to connect the sounds with the symbols. So we begin with phonological awareness activities. So phonological awareness activities would involve developing listening skills, listening to the sounds in a sequence, listening to sounds. Basically, it starts with listening to sounds in your environment, then listening to specific sounds, like you could make sounds of musical instruments, and they need to identify and tell the sequence in which they heard the sounds. It could be sounds of vehicles, animals, and so on. Then you go to rhyming words, because again, without phonological awareness skills, rhyming is a problem. So you will find children struggling in the kindergarten, with rhyming words. Like if you say bat and you ask for a rhyming word, they can tell you, pot, or but, or anything, bun, anything but a word rhyming with bat. They are not able to identify the sounds, discriminate between the sounds, and so they are not able to give you rhyming words. So you're working on developing rhyming skills, then segmenting and blending of words. So for example, and if, later on sound. So for example, if I say popcorn and I ask you, now say popcorn without pop. So you should be able to say corn. If I say football and I say football without ball, so you should be able to say foot, and vice versa. So they are not able to do that. So a lot of exercises, these kinds of exercises. Then later on it would be with the sounds. So if I say the word bat, what's the beginning sound of bat? They should be able to say b. What is the ending t? What is the medial sound a? Now if I say bat again, but change the sound of from b to m, and they should from b to m, and they should be able to tell you mat. And if I say okay, now change the sound in mat from a to e, and they should be able to tell you mit, and so on. So a lot of these exercises need to be done with the students to be ready to then introduce the sound letter connections.